Hello students, we're going to start working on our watercolor technique board. So the first technique we're going to do is wet on wet. So that's where you would want to wet your paintbrush in clean water. Then drop a little water on your watercolors to get them moist. Clean your brush off, wipe it off. So then we will take our wet paintbrush and dip it into the paint color choice we want. So I'm going to do blue. I forgot a step. We need to wet our paper too. Our paper needs to be wet, our paint needs to be wet, our brush needs to be wet. So now I'm going to drop the blue, just touch it down. I'm going to clean my brush in the dirty water, wipe it off gently, dip into the clean water, and grab another color. I'm going to grab green. So my green is wet, my brush is wet, the paper is wet. I'm going to dab it on there again. Clean my brush. Wipe it off. I'm going to add a little orange this time. Just touch it down. Alright, so that's wet on wet or color bleed. Now we're going to do wet on dry. You want your brush wet. And your paint to be wet. And let's do red. So our paper's dry, but our brush is wet. Stay away from that blue. Otherwise I'll get purple. And this will kind of stain your paper. It'll be harder to get off since it was not wet to begin with. But you should end up with a pretty dark color once it dries. So a graded wash, you would start with a strong dark color or a lot of color at the top. And I'm going to wet the paper for this, because I want it to go down smoothly, fade out. And I'm going to use purple. Get your brush loaded with that purple. See how that's nice and strong at the top? I'm going to wash out my paintbrush. I'm going to wipe it off. Then I'm going to pull that color down into towards the bottom. So it started dark and then went light. Got a big glob right there. Cleaning off my paintbrush, wiping it dry. Now a variegated wash is where we're going to use two colors. So we're going to start with one color at the top and one color at the bottom. They're going to kind of meet in the middle. I'm going to wet my paper. I'm going to start with yellow at the bottom, so that like on the graded wash we would want the dark at the top or the bottom and then lighten up as we go. So if you feel like you have too much paint, you'll rinse off your brush, maybe wipe it a tad, and then pull that color up to where it fades lightly to the middle. Clean your brush, wipe it off, and grab your second color. I'm going to do blue. At the top, put your loaded brush down so the dark stays up there. If you feel like you have too much color, you may wash it off and wipe it a tiny bit. And then pull that color down to the yellow. So to do a wash means to pretty much cover the whole watercolor surface with some type of color, and then, you know, water added depending on the look you're going for. Now we're going to go to the plastic wrap where you can make patterns and effects with watercolor. There's many things you can use: plastic wrap, bubble wrap, a sponge. Take some green. Lay it down on there. I think plastic wrap makes like frost on the window effect. And then you just lay that down and leave it set for a bit, and we'll go to the next square here. So splatter painting, probably most of you know about that, but it's good to demonstrate. So maybe I have a beach or a road that I want to make pebbly or spotty. And you can splatter different ways too. You can use a toothbrush to splatter, Or you can get the tip of your paintbrush and just use your finger. But see, it splatters everywhere. So you have to be prepared for that also. You don't get to control your splatter. Alright. We're going to go down to scratch here. So this might be, we're going to try it two ways. I'm going to scratch first on the dry paper in one part. So if you wanted to put grass in here, or make something fur for an animal, you can scratch first with a toothpick or paper clip. And then go over it with the paint. And then let's paint a little bit. And then scratch and see if we get dark or not. Yeah, I think either way works, first or last. But this is a nice sharp thumbtack. So now resist, you probably know or have done in elementary school the crayon resist. If you put white crayon down, or white oil crayon. You can also use, there's masking fluid where it won't let the paint stick or penetrate the paper. Or rubber cement can be used and then rubbed off after it's dried. And then when you rub it off, it will be white there. So where the crayon was, the paint will not go. And then our final one is salt. And you want this to be pretty moist. You want to use quite a bit of water so that the salt can do its thing. So I got a lot of splatter here from above. And you just put a little salt in your hand and shake it over or pinch it over, just like the spaghetti bowl. And you have to let that dry, and you wouldn't want to paint over it again. If you're doing the salt technique, you'd want that to be the last thing you did was to put the salt on. And then once it dries, it like kind of sucks up the color. It'll be light blue where the salt is once we rub it off. Thank you for your time. Can't wait to see you on Monday and Tuesday, and we'll get our technique boards going.